Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bucs Bounty alongside Michael McHenry. My name is Stephen Brault, and today we have an awesome guest with us,
Mhm.
outfield coach, first base coach, base running coach, everything coach. Tarrik Brock joins us on the show. Welcome, Tarrik. So good to have you, man. We call him T Brock.
What's
That's probably what
up?
we're going to be calling him the rest of the
Yeah.
show. But good to see you, man. Thanks for coming on.
Man, thanks for having me. It's really cool to actually not be on the field and just talk about life and baseball
Mhm.
with you guys. So I'm ready to go.
I can't wait. I
Heck
mean,
yeah.
T
All right.
Brock,
Well,
this could be a blast.
yeah, it's going to be so much fun. We got to start because just before we did this, we started recording. You told me the story of your major league debut and that process that led up to it. Michael wasn't here yet, so he didn't get to hear it, and he's going to absolutely love it. So I just want you to start. It came up. You said you were with the Mariners, or got drafted by the Tigers, and then why don't you just take it from there?
Yeah, so I got drafted by the Tigers, and 5 years into my development, there was this Rule 5 draft, and all of a sudden I get a phone call, in December before my birthday, which is Christmas, and hey, welcome, you're with the Seattle Mariners. I'm like, what the heck is this, man? Like that didn't really happen. So I'm good. Okay, so it's great. So I go over there and work my way up. I was a team MVP of Double A and you make it up to Triple A. And so I'm on the roster at this point in time. And they come to me and go, we have to take you off the roster. So I'm like 6 feet, 175, 180 skinny guy. And the guy that they're taking me off the roster for is Butch Husky. And Butch
A
Husky was
what?
def opposite of me. He was fit. I mean, he was built like a tank. So they went from Slim Shady to Butch Husky, in one moment. And so, and so, instead of staying, with the Mariners, and this is where I could look back and say, where I was immature. Instead of staying there, I decided to leave and I go sign with the Chicago Cubs. So I go there and I struggle for a year, and then off season I make a declaration, and this is one part of how I live my life. The declaration was made: if I go back to big league camp, I'm going to do everything I can to show them every tool that I have in my belt. That was the declaration I make, and you can make them when you're angry, and you can just make them when you're determined. And so that was a determined declaration. And so it's the spring of 2000. I find out that the team is going to open up in Tokyo, Japan. I'm like, that would be a blast. Right. So, and my wife is with me for a while. She's going back and forth to California. And then all of a sudden, I get a tap on my shoulder and I'm like, oh man, I'm getting sent down to AAA. I don't know how I'm going to make
You're
this
like,
phone call.
no.
And so,
No.
we're at Hohokam, the old spring training stadium, and Don Baylor taps me on the shoulder. I go down the hallway. He sticks out his hand. He goes, "Congratulations, you make the team." If you ever saw Major League when Wesley Snipes go outside and he's dancing outside, that
Yeah.
was your boy. I mean,
Yeah.
I was so excited. So I make the team and I'm going over and I make my major league debut and I get my first major league hit in Tokyo, Japan in a game against the New York Mets. The cool thing about that is that I didn't know that I would be a trivial question after that. And then, some of the players on the team find out and they go, that's really cool. What was that like? It was a blur, but it was great. And when I watched the replay, it was the most awesome thing that ever happened. So I believe everybody that plays this game gets an opportunity to do
Mhm.
something really special that could be timeless. And so the coolest thing is like you just accept that and be thankful that you had that opportunity to do that. But then also I get to see how I grew also from that as well.
So you were the only guy to get traded for Husky, and you're the only, excuse me, they get Butch Husky out, and then MLB. There's never been another guy debut in Japan. Just you. That's it, right? That's
No,
the trivia
first
question.
one. That was
First and
it.
only.
First player to make his major league debut and get his first major league hit on foreign soil. That was the coolest part right there.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Let's
That's
let's
so
let's.
sick.
It's so sick. So let's roll back because you got drafted in '91 and you made your debut in 2000. Is that correct? In the big leagues.
Yes, yes,
Um, talk
yes.
about talk about that walk. I mean, you said your wife. I'll never forget the time I got traded in Boston, and I'm living in Polly Pocket's playland in an attic of someone's house that I never met. The
Yes.
refrigerator was shorter than me, and man, it was a moment. And I was at the grocery store. I put everything back and I left. And my wife wasn't there. She flew back, packed up my stuff, and drove
Yes.
to Pittsburgh. And I'm gone. I don't think we can appreciate them enough. So just talk about all that grind through the minor leagues of maybe the baseball, some, but the life aspect of
Yes.
it all. Because it's nuts when all three of us have gone through it.
Yeah. So the time I met my wife, I was probably 4 years in or so, and she was in college and she was running track. So being able to talk with her about things that I was going through, definitely gave me that someone else has gone through some things there. And then I
Mm,
remember I was at the point where I was debating, like, man, should I have played football? Can I go back and play football? And I remember her words was like, man, like the best thing about starting something is seeing it all the way through. I said, you know what? You're absolutely right.
amen.
So, I prepared and went out and played and had a really good season. I make, the all-star team and I get moved up. Now, this is where life hits you. So my wife only saw me playing well. And then, like, all of a sudden,
Mm.
I'm struggling in front of her, and I didn't know how to handle that because, I wanted to be the knight in shining armor, like always doing well. And I remember sitting on the couch and I'm going, I'm sick of struggling. I'm a quit. And she was like, well, I got to go back to school. So if you're going to do that, let's just go ahead and do it, and let's drive all the way back
Woo.
to California from Jacksonville, Florida. So I'm sitting there, not really moving fast, not moving slow. So I get up and I go, "Yep, I'm going to quit. We're gonna leave today." I get to the stadium and I thought I was late. It was a rain delay, right? Nobody knew I was missing. I looked at the lineup. I'm batting six, playing right field.
No.
So, yeah, so this is the day where, you know, games aren't broadcast on TV. You have to listen
Hmm.
to, 9:70 a.m., the sun. And my
Yeah.
wife realized that I'm not back, and she looks and or hears that I'm in the lineup. So, long story short, I go 2 for 3 with an RBI. I drive home. My wife meets me at the door and she goes, "Oh, I guess we're not quitting." I said, "No, we're not." And so, if I had quit, I wouldn't be here talking to you guys today, and I wouldn't have had that chance to get my first major league hit in Tokyo, Japan, or be a part of this team for the last 6 years. So, man, when they talk about when you find a woman, you find a good thing. I've definitely been, a beneficiary of that. And then also, she's allowed me or been with me while I grew, right? I had to learn, how to treat a woman from a different perspective, right? How to communicate better, how to work through stuff, disappointments in my childhood that I carried into the marriage that I should have worked
Mm,
out. See,
amen to
these are the
that.
things that most guys aren't willing to talk about because everyone wants to be shown in the good light. But you know what's the
Hmm.
good light? Is when you shine the light on the areas where you fell short and that you were able to make changes and grow and learn. And then there's nothing better than having a partner that can say, you know what, he was horrible. He was bad communication. He grew up in areas where there was
Yeah.
gangs, and so he was selfish, self-centered, he was
Yep.
arrogant, he was all that stuff, right? And so, when they had these books that was says the power of a praying wife, my wife was a praying wife. And so she had to deal with a guy that came from divorced parents, that came from a broken household, right? That was searching for meaning, purpose, and trying to heal from childhood trauma and hurt. And I just thank God that she stuck with me long enough to see me on this side, to see the man that she thought that I always could be. And I just think God just showed her my heart, and just like, if you can hang in there while I work on this guy, you'll
Yeah.
get a really good husband. And so
Man.
guys don't never talk about that. No one opens up and just shares, because it's like, what are people going to think about me? Like, who cares what they think about you? They're going to think what they think anyway. And so I think that's just something that, I'm willing to talk about. And I think that's what draws me to our players, because I just speak from a standpoint of life, of having successes, failures, and then, all those things together in time has brought me just a tick of wisdom.
That's courageous, my friend.
I think that's perfect. Yeah, I mean, it's perfect because you've gone through so much and you've been able to take it into coaching now. And you just told me before this you're in your 34th year in the game of baseball, which is amazing to think about because you still look like you're 35. It's unbelievable. But as so the first time my wife came and watched me pitch in Pittsburgh, I got booed by the home fans because I did so bad and I was on the streak of not doing well. So like that experience, people don't, yeah, you don't really, those are the things that, like you said, aren't talked about very much, that there are difficult things that go along that are on the side of baseball, while being a very privileged life in a lot of ways, is not an easy
Yes.
lifestyle at all the moving, all the changing, there's nothing ever that's consistent. There are guys that people see that sign the 12-year deal, congratulations, that's 1.1% of everybody who
Yeah,
plays
exactly.
professional baseball. Most guys, it's a grind. It's really difficult. Even guys that get to the big leagues don't stay long very long. It's very
Right.
difficult. So, how do you take all those lessons you've learned in your life and now transfer it to coaching? I know you say you like to be open with guys. Does part of that come with when you have all these young players here, teaching them how to deal with failure?
Yes, and older players as well, because here's the cool thing. When you've been in the game for a while, you've done your fair share of failing in practice, right? And so what I teach and what I tell guys, it's okay to fail in practice, even if you've been in the game for 14 years or, three. It's okay to fail. Why? Because you're pushing to see what your limits are. You pushing to see what you can do. There might be a ball that you might need to go flat on and see if you can get it in a game because it could possibly save a run. But if you don't practice that and if you don't fail, right? Because again, this is some other things that we talked about before we got going, is that there's a lot of cliches that have been used in the games that people have taken to heart. And so words are very powerful. So if you say certain things, some kid might live and die by it. So like this, perfect practice what makes what perfect. It's not. That doesn't happen.
Mm-mm.
So what happens when you take the best line to the ball and you miss it? Oh my gosh, what happened? So if, and I believe when you fail in practice, it builds resilience, right? It makes you tough minded, not tough, and you're able to respond and be able to battle and come back from that. And I think that's what a lot of kids are missing. So when they go like this kid is tough, he's a gamer, he's had some failure where he's able to grow. So I think everyone should label their coaching style, and you should put it like on your chest. Here's my coaching style. I'm
Like
a
a badge of honor.
relational,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a relational teacher that coaches. And so I coach players, I teach players, I coach men, I teach men. And I think that's the best way to do it, because I know at some point like players might think, this guy doesn't understand what it's like. I absolutely know what it's like. It took me years to get to the major leagues, right? And I wasn't there that long. And I know what declarations I made. So being here as a coach, like I don't take one single day or inning for granted, right? Because I know at the times where I was saying, if I get there, this is what I would do. And so now that I'm here, and so I did what I said I was going to do and more, because it's like we have to continue to evolve and grow.
So I love it. I loved your story about your wife. Very similar. I've been awful to her at times in our marriage, but she's been praying and she's been loving me, and I'm growing every day. So I appreciate you sharing that. And then something I say about perfect practice or perfect being perfect or any stretch of that is you're going to be a good practicer or a perfect practicer. It's never going to carry over to the game because nothing's perfect. But the badge of honor that you were just talking about, I think you have a gift for seeing the human being and look into his eyes. Even we've had a lot of interactions at the field. We talk about baseball all the time, but it's how you look at people and how you look at them differently. And I feel like the knack of today's coaching is being able to look past the numbers and look past maybe what society wants to say, what baseball wants to say, and really listen to what that human is, was, and came from. Because Henry Davis is a great example of that guy's defense has been off the charts, and everybody on the planet except maybe Henry Davis was like, Nah, I'm good. I'll figure it out. And he has. I've seen that story play out a lot. And those are the guys you want to bet on. Talk about being a coach and seeing that and pulling out the potential of those type of guys because you kind of mentioned that's kind of what your wife did. She put you in a spot, said, "Hey, we're leaving." You drive to the park, and there was some little thing in you that said, "I'm in the lineup. What happened? This must be divine. I got to go play." And you get 2 hits. Those moments in life
Yeah.
are crazy, but it all stems back to someone believing in you. And I think you do that incredibly
Right.
well, but you do it in a way that for a man you need, which is honest.
Right. So I definitely look at the the person first, right? And I think there's certain things that we all have that are gifts, and I have a gift where I'm able to see, certain things. And like I tell guys, like, your gift, should play every day of your life. Right. It's like you shouldn't go like a month and your gift doesn't play. Like that doesn't, then it's not a gift. You don't
Mm.
have it.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Um,
wrapped up.
and so yeah. So the biggest thing is when you're dealing with this, I don't forget how hard this game is. It is hard to
Yeah,
hit.
amen.
It's hard to do certain things. So I just look at it, I listen, and then I just add a little bit of wisdom that's behind or layered in, with a little bit of comedy to help. Right. Because people are going to remember one or two things, the good times and the bad times. And most of the times when you ask a person about a story, they'll tell you the good stuff first and then, the bad. So if we're doing that, if I can make something funny or I can have you laughing while I'm working your rear end off to try and get you tired so we can really
Hmm.
work to that skill, then, we're good. So I look at it like this, like times, I need to defend the person, I will, and then I'll challenge the skill. And I think that's the most important thing, because in the end, it's like I don't want to lose a player. A player can walk away, but I don't want to lose a player. And I
Mm,
think that's the most important thing. It's like how many guys, the coaches will fight for the man first, and then challenge and work on the skill. Most coaches want players to share their heart, be vulnerable with me, all these keywords, be vulnerable with me, let me know everything about you. But the player doesn't know anything about the guy that's, charged to lead them. I think there's something wrong with that.
yes.
Right? It's like
Yeah.
it doesn't make you human. And I've been in rooms where coaches goes, I know everything about this guy. And I remember, and this is where sometimes me just talking, or thinking out loud, can get you in trouble. And I said, well, what does he know about you? And the room got quiet. Now, this was like later on in my coaching career,
Uh,
where I was able to say that, and the room got quiet. And then this is where guys can get in a pride with it. Well, what do they know about you? Well, as a matter of fact, some of our players that live locally have actually sat with me while, my wife and I was watching our two boys play youth football. Like I've actually allowed them to see behind the curtain and talk with my kids and be around them to see that I'm actually a human being. And so when I say stuff like you have credibility, and I think that's the most important thing. How many times we've seen guys, around their family go, dang, you're not the same guy around, your family that you are
yeah.
around us. Like, what's going on with that? And I just want to I'm the same guy. The same stuff that I do, with my kids, I do with some of these guys because some of these guys are the same age as my kid. Like I'll walk next to Brian Reynolds, while he's trying to put his gloves on and knock the glove out his hand, or bump him or something like that. It's just it's just that, but that's just a way of me actually continuing to stay connected with the players that I'm charged to lead as well.
He got him, and he's done it again.
Welcome to Unobstructed Views.
We're at BP. We're going to get an inside look.
Once you start loving each other, you start fighting for each other.
Welcome to Coach's Corner. And he'll admire it, so will we.
Is that too much to ask for?
Oh, baby.
That connection, T Brock, I think is something that a lot of people don't understand how important that is. We're in a generation of baseball now that is more driven by numbers than it has ever been. And look,
Mhm.
baseball has always been a numbers game. We all know exactly what our numbers were from certain times. People always ask pitchers like, "Oh, did you know you had a no-hitter going in the 6th?" Like, yeah, he knew he had a no-hitter going in the 6th. Come on, we're all human here.
Yes.
We're all thinking
Yeah.
about it. Um, with that being the way that baseball is now, and analytics have taken over such a big contingency of that, how do you balance being able to, like you said, communicate with the human, connect with the man that the person is, and then also be able to try to make sense of these numbers that, they're not numbers you can coach, they're numbers that you can look at to know what to coach. How do you figure out that line? How do you balance those two things in today's game with players who grew up with all of these numbers?
Right. So I look at the numbers as evidence, right? Now the evidence can be spot on, but and also that evidence can be a little misleading. And what I mean by that is this. Um, if we have a guy who's a big body type guy in the outfield, he doesn't have a quick step, right? But he takes really good routes. So instead of saying, oh, docking him because he's not quick and he wants to be sure of his reads, let's highlight what he does well. He runs really good routes, and when the ball is in the area, he makes catches. Those are the things that we should evaluate him on nightly. Are those things that he does well? Now, over time, and seeing a certain amount of balls come up at a certain trajectory and certain speeds, like he'll know maybe I could take a deeper angle, or if I stay a little bit low, when I'm doing my drop step, I have a chance to get in those balls, right? So what happened? He didn't get better because he worked on it. He got better because, there was some wisdom of seeing a certain ball over and over again to where you get to it.
Mm.
And so I think that's how we need to do it. It's like, what does this guy does well, right? And I think the killer to me of success is better. Well, if we can get him to do what he does well a little bit better, it's like, no, like what are we doing? It's like putting ketchup on a really good steak. It's like like don't do that.
Yeah, don't do
And
that,
so it's like,
please.
yeah, don't do that. And so it's like those are the things there. And then also just telling guys like, hey, I think the most important thing that you could do is have a plan for a player. And so, we assigned a free agent, and I called him, congratulate him, I'm glad to have you. And the player goes, well, my defense wasn't good last year, and I want to be better. Like, how can you get me better? I said, I'm glad you asked me that question. I laid out 4 things, and I said, if we could do these 4 things, man, like you'll have a good season. And you're gonna have to trust me where I'm gonna say, some days I don't want you to do anything. Some days I just want you to focus on, running and 4 steps and stopping and making sure that your lines are direct because it's a long season. He said, okay. And it's turned out where this guy's had a good season and played really good defense. So you have to have plans. But I think the plan should come within the coach's room in the dugout. If the plans come from above and that plan isn't laid out, that vision isn't laid out, how can I grasp that vision and run with it
Mhm.
and be able to sell it or present it to a player? It doesn't work that way. And so I think that's how we should go. And hopefully there can be a balance where we can get, and this would there's other words we use, like let's collaborate. So it's like, hey, as a coach, this is what I'm seeing. I'm working with them all the time. Do the numbers support that? Or if it doesn't, or maybe I should focus on something else and go from there. And I think that's the best way to do it. But if the plans are coming from above down, then it's hard to sell it because it becomes this. This is what they think you should do. And the player will say, well, what do
Mm.
you think I should do? Right. And so there it is from there, because now you're the one with the credibility, and you're going to be the one that's going to labor, cry, be frustrated, work hard, and celebrate with me.
Yeah, ownership comes with a face most of the time. So I couldn't agree more. And so one day I was out in the outfield and you were explaining, we were behind Jack Sawinski and you were explaining what you were watching, what you were doing. Just walk through maybe some of those points you're just bringing up, maybe those 4 points of how you've helped Brian Reynolds completely change his season in the outfield. I mean, this guy's completely different in the second half. O'Neill Cruz is completely different. I believe you may have been talking about Pham. He's been incredible this year. The outfield has been really good. We have a unique outfield, and I don't think people appreciate that enough. So talk about all those elements, because there's been some huge strides this year, maybe the biggest I've ever seen in the outfield from a bunch of different dudes. Even Jack Sawinski last night making that play, the jump, the direction, the read. And it's not easy jumping around all outfield positions. We don't talk about this stuff enough because I played a little bit. I played left and right. If I had to play center, as easy as some people say it was, dude, I didn't know what to do when the ball was at me. So just talk a little bit
Right.
about like all the elements that go on, the lineup changes, the flipping, and you're still seeing these guys improve and grow. And that trust, to your point, started in spring training. Watching you guys do some different things to make them vulnerable and fail. I would love for you to share whatever you want, however you want, but your teaching style is evident this year more than ever before, maybe in my mind. For the fans in the past, I've seen it,
Hmm.
but it's easy for me to see, easy for Steven to see. Now it's easy for the fans to see in my mind. So I want you to kind of explain a little bit of however you wanted to attack that question, because it was bold and big.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give it a bold answer. So this
Ooh,
was the thing here. So I'm gonna go with Brian Reynolds because I've had him the longest, right?
yeah.
So he started out with me in left field, and then we had a need in center field, so he went to center field. So I was like, hey Brian, do you want to play center field or you want to stay where you're at? And he was like, he gave me the best company line ever. I'll do whatever the team wants me to do. I told him, then I'm not gonna put you in center field. And he said, why? I said, because I want you to play there. I don't want you to do it because you're being good for the team. And then, we kept doing some drills. And then later on, he goes, yeah, I want to play center field. Okay, great. Put him in center field. So he went from left to center. And he went back to left and then to right field. So going to right field where he hasn't played that much, at least since I've been here, like
Mm-hmm.
this is the most he's played in right field. We were going to have some challenges early. And so, I was okay with that. I knew that that was expressed. So then, I went out with him one day and he was said, I'm not seeing the ball well. So again, I stand behind him and I just look at him. I noticed one thing to start. I noticed that he was lined up from third in line with third and second. And so he was there and he was looking like straight towards the base instead of into home plate. And so I said, okay, Brian, let's just turn you a little bit more towards the plate. And so when I give them something, I give them what's the best thing that can come out of it, the benefits of it. I said the benefits of it's like the ball would definitely be either on your left or your right, and it'll help you take deeper angles. So so we started that, as well as he started doing a different pre-pitch. And the only thing with the pre-pitch that I thought that people talk about the tennis hop is that if the outfielder is doing it at the same time that the infielder is doing it, it's not productive. Why is that? Because in the outfield you have more time than you do in the infield. So it's like, okay, start your tennis hop later as you see the guys getting ready to swing, right? And so, okay, so then that
Mm.
got him to be a little bit later. So now the ball is hit, he's down, and he's able to move and go. The other thing that's happened is that uh, I moved him in a little bit more, especially playing in our ballpark. Like, so the one thing that I saw that was like those balls that was getting jammed, like he didn't have an opportunity to compete in those. He was always one bounce away. So if I could move him in 3 to 4 steps, now he gets to compete on those balls. So those are balls that he wasn't able to catch that now he's catching, that turns out to be like 2-star plays, right? So there's a star rating. There's
Mm.
5 all the way down to 1. So now he's able to compete on those 2 and 3-star plays more than he was before. And so now you're able to make traction that way. So combine that with all those small adjustments with a huge thing from Brian. He wanted to get better. So he wanted to get better. I wanted to help him. And so that's a great combination. And so you see where he's at. Well, since the All-Star break, he's been one of the top defenders in all of baseball in right field. Like that is something to hang your hat on. And so it's like, every day he comes out and he just live shacks. And then he'll get mad. Like they're not hitting any balls that way. Brian, if you were able to get 25 good reads without catching the ball, like you've already won the day. So it's always giving them a perspective of like, you don't have to get like 10 fly balls in live shagging to, become a good outfielder. You can get 10 good reads, you can get 10 good read steps, and all those things that come into play. And so it's like, yeah, so it's just helping, shift the perspective of how they see things. So that was it. So Jack was really good, at going back on the ball. And then let's just use the word cautious were coming in. And so it's like, come on, Jack, I need you to be a lion coming in. I need you to attack that
Mm-hmm.
ball. But the one thing was like, okay, maybe I should move him in a little bit as well since he really goes back well. And then to see him bounce around where he could be in center one day, left the other day. And if we need him in right, go to right and be able to bounce around. So then have to start tailoring our work a little bit different. Right. So it's like, when we have space, especially on the road, and we can hit fly balls or ground balls where he gets that work in left field, then that's great. He can go from there. But I just try to train all our outfielders as though they're center fielders, and we just place them on the corner. Now, only thing we focus on is like angle and slice or draw whatever that you'll get from that position. But it starts with the beginning where it's okay to fail. Like you going back on the ball and it just tips off your glove, man. Okay, like we'll get the next one. Like you gave us what you need. Sometimes you're going to do everything that we might label as correct, and you still might not make the play. That's okay. We'll get the next one. And going from there and letting them know, like, I wholeheartedly believe in them and believe in the work that we've put in. And, just being honest, like, hey, man, you guys are helping me to grow, helping me to get better, helping me to see things from a different perspective. Like, everybody should be growing, and especially in the leadership position. If the leaders isn't growing, then how can those that you charge to lead can grow as well? And then I'll
Truth.
say one last thing. I had a coach that coaches first base, and I really value him. He's been at this level for 41 years. In the offseason, I make several calls to him. The biggest call that I ever made to him, and I was like, hey, Dave, have you ever like amended how you teach? And he said, I'm glad you asked me that question because I've done it several times. And I'm glad that we're at this point in time in our relationship. And we just
Mm.
talked for an hour about how we challenge our own teachings and how we've been teaching because these are different generations. And here's the cool thing. Like I had two boys, one son like Thomas the Tank Engine, and just a 4 year different. One kid like Blues Clues. Those are two different generations that, as coaches, like we have to coach to. And so it's like I might have to change. It's the same principle, but I might have to word it differently from one player to another. And so that's why you coach to the individual within the group.
Mm.
Ah, man, I love that so much. I
So
will
good.
say though, you're not getting away from talking about outfield play without talking about O'Neal Cruz in center field because his growth as an outfielder this season has been incredible. There was a play, I want to say just, it was a few weeks ago from when we're doing this, but the most important thing about that play was it was the first time I've seen him get a hard line drive directly over his head. And he turned
Mm.
around, he sprinted backwards. Last second, he's like a football receiver. So his head is down. He's sprinting back. Last second, he looks up over his shoulder and he throws the glove out and he snags it out of the air. And
Yes,
probably at a height that no other center fielder in baseball would even be able to get to. And
I
I
know
just feel
exactly
like
which
absolutely.
player
that's
you're
the
talking
first
about.
time
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. And that was the first time we really saw him make that play on that hard line drive directly over his head, which I believe is the hardest ball to field in the outfield for any position. Can you just talk about what O'Neal Cruz has done this season that has really impressed you as far as growing as a defensive center fielder?
Man, that's really good, and that this is making me smile because just yesterday, after we did our defensive work here in Cincinnati, I brought the group together, and I thank the whole group for allowing me to coach them hard, and love on them while they're
Wow.
coaching, and I wanted to praise O'Neal individually in front of the group because he was asked to do something that was a very tough challenge, which is to go from playing shortstop to go to playing center field. And this is the illustration I use. I said Fernando Tatis went from shortstop to right field. You went from shortstop to center field, which means you got balls slicing to your left, your right, sinking, taking off, and you handled it the best way that you could. You worked your tail off. You failed in front of the world. And the only thing I had to do is tell you from time to time is make sure you keep your head up, man. I believe in you. You're gonna get the next one, right?
Amen.
Because no one can be harder on you than you can be on yourself, and you could be
Right.
your
Oh
own
yeah.
worst enemy. So I'm just sitting there like, man, like you got it. And so the plays that he makes, I've seen him make in practice, but before I hurt myself, I was out there running around with those guys. That's why I got hurt, and doing a fly ball game and challenging them because I knew a couple things was going to happen. At some point in time, O'Neal wasn't going to have his legs. He wasn't going to have the pop. They were going to feel heavy. And guess what? Like I told him, the game does not care. The game expects you to go out there and give the best effort and compete on every ball that you get. Right. And so
Oh
before he
yeah.
goes out to play, I say the same four things: play quick, play fast, play happy, and make good decisions. And one time I forgot, and he came and hit me on my shoulder. Hey, you forgot to tell me. Yes. So like that's it. And that's what I hold him accountable for is those four things. If I'm not getting those four things, like we're gonna have a quick conversation. It's normally like this. Hey, you're not playing happy. I need to see you playing happy. Pull it together. Let's go. That's the end of the conversation. That's how grown men have conversation. This is
Mm-hmm.
what I'm not seeing. This is what I expect to see. I need to see it. Let's go. Because the one thing that people don't understand, every time you're changing, there's a cost that comes with that change. And are you willing to pay the price of that cost, whatever it will cost you? It might cost you your pride one night. You might die for a ball, or you might come in for a ball and it goes over your head. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. You know what? Everyone has paid that price as well, right? And so you pay taxes on greatness, you pay taxes on success, right? And so he's grown so much. And
Ours.
so I said that in front of the group because I want them to know, like, man, you've done something really special. And I said, this time next year, we're going to be talking about you in a whole different light, in a whole different way. And if I can crack that smile with him, I know I got to his heart in that situation. And the other guys got to see it, and so he's grown so much. Every time a ball hits over his head, he'll come back. He goes, you think maybe I could have caught that? No, sir. That ball was hit at 120 and at a certain angle. You had no shot, but you can make it look close every single time. Right.
Oh,
And so I say the biggest adjustment that we needed to make is like, I said, like, the car may say, Oppo 8 steps back. Well, his 8 steps and he goes full speed. He doesn't have time to break down. And so it took me 2 series to learn that lesson where it was a cost where it's like, nope, we
Hmm.
cannot move him 8 steps back. He needs to play a shallow so he can stretch out and then he'll see balls that he can have a chance on, and the ones that he won't, he'll see that a lot clearer. And man, he's grown, so much, with that. And I just can't wait to just see him, continue to grow and then spend time with him in the off season if he's playing winter ball, going down there just to make sure that he stays tight and that he's growing, that he's not getting loose. But he's grown so tremendously. He's looking at spray charts now, he's moving guys. It's the coolest thing ever, but that takes time. And normally a guy is learning a new position like that at the minor leagues where he can fail, on not as big of a scale to do that. So that really says a lot about the player and the man that he is. Now, everyone still has to grow. Everyone still has to mature. I'm 51. I'll be 52 in December. I still have to grow and mature, and everybody has that mandate. And when I say grow and mature, I mean like character wise. Like there's a part of your character that you see that you go, dang it, I don't like that. Or somebody points that out to you and you go like, I didn't see it that way, but maybe I should start working on it. Right. So I think you should start working on that before it starts costing you.
No one destroys a baseball like O'Neal Cruz.
That is the hardest hit ball in known Major League history.
Pitchers should consider themselves warned.
And it is gone! There's a Cruz missile!
Log in with your cable provider and stream the Pirates all season long on SNP 360.
T. Brock, I adore what you just said. The fact that you pulled the guys together and said it out loud in front of them. I don't think you understand how much that probably meant to him. It would have changed my career. Like literally one of those times with some dad issues that would have changed my life, because it doesn't happen very often. That is courage, that's vulnerability of a man. But I'm going to transition because you talked about one thing that I love was the fact that he's lost his legs, but he's still running, he's still playing, because it is a consequence of changing positions and changing into a premium position. It's something that I watch with catchers all the time. When they haven't caught
Hmm.
50 games, now they're catching 90 games, they are going to lose their butt. It's going to sink back and they're going to lose their legs and
Yes.
they're not going to know it. And that's a reality. But the one thing that has not faltered with Cruz, and what I think is maybe your greatest gift, is getting these guys prepared to run the bases. So you don't necessarily need your legs, you need your brain. And you need an understanding of what's
Yes.
going on. And you're always asking me, hey, what you seeing, Mac? And I'll usually stay within my realm and that catcher, that 8-foot window I love down there. And some of the things you've told me in the past, and I'll let you decide what you share, but like there's a gift there. And we have a team that's dynamic. I think we could really, I guess, wrap our identity around taking advantage of their team, causing chaos. And I think that's coming in a loud way moving forward. We talk a little bit about the process there, the meetings that you have with these guys about each pitcher. It's everywhere in the clubhouse of, the TV. It has, some of their tendencies, whatever you want to share. I just want to open that door because, man, that's been fun. And I've used a lot of it in my coaching with USA and college summer leagues and stuff. It's been fun to use and it's worked.
Yeah. So, it started a while back, but I started like kind of labeling it like I serious. So it'd be like, hey guys, this is our PSI, series. And that means, pressure, speed and intensity. Right. And so this is how we can pressure them. Like we're
Oh,
going to pressure
It's
nice,
them
good.
man.
Yeah.
with fake breaks and going first to thirds. And, the center fielder is a guy that, he's on our hit list. So anytime he's moving left or right, especially with the slow grass work, we're going first to third on from there. They have like, high spin, so they're gonna bounce a lot of balls in the dirt. So we're gonna take late, secondary lead so that we can roll in and recognize those dirt balls and get the second base on that. Like, so that's it. The intensity part is like we have to match the intensity that's going to be presented to us by the other team and the stadium. What do I mean by that? They're playing to get into the playoffs. So we have to match that natural sitting energy that they're going to have, and we're going to have to match the energy that the crowd's going to present as well. So how do we do that? We have to bust them in the mouth. How do you bust them in the mouth? With the base running and with the energy in which you play. So I'm setting and painting a picture for our players of this is how we're going to win. And within that, I'm just giving them certain nuggets of strategy that we need to have in that. And then there's some guys that we're going to run on and that. And then so individually, I will go to guys. And it might be like, hey, JT, Jared Trello, you know what? I really need you to steal third tonight. Here, you know what? This is what he does. You're on your own. Like you don't even have to look at me. Because base stealers are hippies, like they need to feel it a little bit. So like if I'm lighting
Mm-hmm.
you up and shutting you down, like that might be the best time. And so what he's learned is like your moment comes around once. That moment could be the first pitch or it could be the eighth pitch, but you can't miss that moment. But here's the thing. How do you get better at that? There's going to be times where you miss that moment. And what happens? What changes? The sting of missing that moment is what gets you to be on. Like I got to be on from the first pitch all the way through. Yes, because you only get that one shot. That's what Eminem said. You get that one shot, and
Mm-hmm.
once you get that one shot, either you now all it boils down to is did you execute on that, right? And so now it's like, man, okay, so now your preparation is different when you go out there and you're taking your secondary lead. I'm making sure I'm taking it late. I'm making sure I'm getting to the right lead size on my primary lead because I believe everything that we do is measured and calculated, right? So we get the good measured lead. He is 15 feet at second, right? And every risk that we take is calculated, right? So we know that he's only done one spin move pick to second base this year, right? So everything we're doing is calculated off of that risk. And we're going to take the time. We're going to see where the shortstop is playing. If he's holding me on, great. Then I know he's not going to really want to do a spin move and pick with the shortstop holding me on, right? Because now you got two guys from the same angle going towards second base. So I can actually extend. So all these things come into play. And I believe if players feel like they're going into a situation with an advantage, then they'll play differently.
What is more important to you as a base running coach? First to thirds or stealing bases, taking extra 90s on dirt balls, stuff like that?
I'm going to tell you this. It's a lyric. The best thing, the most important thing is home to first, right? Because that sets the energy where like, man, these guys are always running,
Yeah.
right? Good time secondaries that help you to go to first to third. But I really like first to home as well, especially on balls down the line. If we could score guys from first in our ballpark at PNC, where that left field wall is angle, where that ball kicks back to the left fielder, and we can score, that says a lot about everything. That means that it was a good secondary lead. That means he cut the corners well, right? And when he came around third, he did everything he could to just carry that momentum all the way through and come in and slide. So those things matter a lot. And then 2 outs, scoring from second base, period, is huge.
Mm.
I love it.
I think when it
I
comes
really
down
do.
to stealing bases, I think it does one or two things. Like it gets you ahead or it catches you up. But you know what keeps you in that sweet spot is the overall base running.
So finish that statement a little bit further. It keeps you ahead, or what was the other thing you said?
Or it ties you up.
So explain
You know,
that
it's
to
like, oh,
fans out
we're down.
there. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a tie ball game and it's 2 outs, and we need to take a chance to try and get in scoring position. So now you steal that base there, and we've had that this year several times where we steal with 2 outs, we steal second base, and then all of a sudden a jam shot scores the runner from
Mm-hmm.
second. Like we just went ahead. That stolen base, that's what that helped us out. Or we could be down a run and then all of a sudden we steal that base and then our base hit scores it and we can go from there. Because the other thing is it's like sometimes when it's like it's the eighth inning, sometimes it's hard to score and you're down by three. It is hard to score 3 runs in one chunk. But you know what? If we can steal second and we get a hit and now we're down by two, it's easier to fight for two than it is for three off of one of the best pitchers on the staff, which is normally the closer. And so like that's how stolen bases could be used. Sometimes, you might steal third with 2 outs because it might take away a pitch that could help out our hitter. All of a
Yes.
sudden, now he might be
Yes.
less likely to throw that split finger, fastball in that situation. So, like, we have to use that. And that's why, sometimes your base running is all about setting up your hitting. Like this staff here can go quick, can go quick, can go quick. So, what do we need to do? Well, we need to run more fake breaks. Why are we running fade breaks? Because now all of a sudden it might get the pitcher to hold the ball. That might be to an advantage of our guys in the box. Also, we run that fake break with 2 strikes, and all of a sudden that second baseman moves in and that ball goes a little bit to his left. Oh man, we just bought a hit in
Mm.
that situation. That's why everything is measured and calculated, and you just forming game plans. It could be a small thing. It's like, hey, the shortstop comes across on double plays on balls that hit to the second baseman, like you're aiming for his left leg and you're trying to push him left or push him to his right because he throws from this type of angle. Now, if he's got to go back this way, he's got to regroup and then throw again. Like that buys that batter runner time to get to first. That's why home to first is really important to me because I mean think about it. Jerry Triello beat out a ball by his toenail yesterday, which helped extend the inning. Like that matters to a team, you know. And the funny thing about it is, Keith Brian Hayes said, "Man, that's that spring training type stuff." Because in spring training, I said it's always best to miss short than to hit the top or the middle of the bag when you're going home to first. So sometimes like he didn't even touch
Oh.
the base, but you wanna aim small, miss small. Like you don't want to land on the top of the base. Every time you watch a replay and you see the foot like this and here's the base, that means this hits, this hit, he's out. But I want guys to hit this way, this way, not
Mm.
this way where your heel hits first. Why? Because that can cause knee problems, that can cause hip and low back because your heel is striking first. So you want to hit here with your toe, not the ball of your foot, but with the toe. And now when you hit it with the toe, now you'll get it to right where the fatty part is on your foot, and you're able to hit the base and strike the base well.
That's how
Man, that was
I pulled my
good.
hamstring in 2016 in AAA because I was running down to first base on a close play at first, and the first baseman or the second baseman ended up getting up there late, and so he put his foot in the middle of the bag. My foot was going to land in the middle of the bag. I extended my leg out a little bit, landed on the heel, boom, there went the hamstring. And like little things like that can make all the difference in the world. I got a quick question for you. We haven't really
Hmm.
seen any Pirates slide into first base this year on, like errant throws off to the side. Or, when you have those kind of reads like that at first base, you always want people to get through first as quickly as possible. That's what you were just talking about, that home to first being so important. Do you focus on, making sure that guys keep that's where their focus is, going through first base, and then you're there at first to kind of guide them if they need to make those moves?
Yeah, so I think that that's the biggest thing is being a proactive first base coach, right? And just making sure that you're in their line of vision. Because in the stadium, if there's the saying like if you're standing next to a runner and he's slowing down, if he's even, he's leaving. He's making his own decision right there. So I need to be in front of him so that if he can't hear me, he could see me and he could see this. Go, go, go. So they get that. The other thing is like in the beginning of spring training, I talk about five looks, right? First one is the ball, then it's the base, then it's the first baseman, and then it's over your right shoulder for overthrow, and then back over your left shoulder in case there's a runner on, second or third that gets caught up in a rundown. Like all these things that you say over and over and over and over again, because like the one thing you want is you want guys to be able to, recite it back, right? Because remember, it's just like spell a word 7 times so that you can remember it by heart. So for me, I do everything in threes. So if I tell you 3 times, I really mean it. Like if I 3 times, I really
Hmm.
mean it, right? One time is for you, one time is for me, the third time is for us, right? So we're tying it all together. And so from that standpoint, now you got something. So if we're all speaking the same language, right? If we're all on the same sheet of music, we got two things. I'll call them the CNC, community and culture.
Mm.
Now, the one thing about culture is like it's something that's established, like this is the way of doing it. The best thing about community, that's where accountability is held, right?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
you won't let anyone that's not in your community hold you accountable for something. First of all, we didn't agree upon it, and I don't know how you think. And then secondly, someone that's in my community can definitely hold me accountable. Why? Because I see them all the time, right? I see them, when we're in the clubhouse. I see them when we're on the plane. I see them when we're on the bus. Like that's different. And I think that's the one thing that we have to reestablish here on this team is community and culture. Culture doesn't win you games, but community can help you win games, right? Because culture's like, oh, culture's good. We have no problems. We have no issues. But all of a sudden, well, we're not on the same sheet of music, and there's no accountability. That's tough. Like that is tough.
Brock, I'd be in your community any day, allow you to keep me accountable any moment. And I'm
Mm.
telling you right now, I would dance to any sheet of music with you, my friend. I can't thank you enough. I don't want to hold you up too much longer. But if there's one last thing you want to say to kids out there that are chasing their dream, from a guy that really had to fight hard. I think all of us did in some
Hmm.
way, and we all have a unique story. But that unique story is a gift to somebody that's chasing because they can learn from those lessons. Which you're obviously, if you listened at all or have 2 ears and listen to this podcast, you understand that. So whatever you want to leave with, I'd love for you to share because man, it's just been a joy to get to know you over the last 6, 7 years, and you're a blessing to me and really anybody you talk to. So take it away, give those blessings out right now because I want to hear them.
Man, I think it's good. I looked at myself as David. Like I've always kind of been in the background, but you kind of see me because I'm at first. And so,
And
like,
your
first of
shoes.
all, thank you guys. Yeah, thank you guys for allowing me to be able to show, who I am as a person, and just see, some cool things about me. What I would say to young men, and I say this is one, have a community that you can lean on. right? That's where you're going to get your validation. That's where you're going to get them to exhort you. That's where you're going to get your rebuke and your correction from there. That's the most important thing. Secondly, be willing to, grow and consistently make changes, in life, because sometimes, you know, uh, a character issue that you can grow from might unlock something on the field for you as well, and most people don't understand that. So that's it. Be able to make changes, right? And lastly, there might be some things that you don't see, right? And you have somebody that can say that that might be a blind spot for you, right? Don't get defensive. Take what people say and weigh it against the truth, and that will let your answer from there. And then lastly, see the person, but listen to their heart. I think that's the most important thing there, and go from there. And then lastly, the state of where our culture and our world is be okay to stand on truth. And then lastly, just love people. Like, understand that, I have shortcomings, I have things that I'm working on, and I'm going to extend mercy and grace to others because I know I need mercy and grace as well. And when you're trying to do something special, understand that there's going to be losses, and losses is lessons on soon successes. And so with that being said, you tie all those things together, and you get a journey. And I'd rather go on a journey than you know do a process, because if that process doesn't work, you're in trouble. But on the journey, you might have to step left, step right, go forward, go backwards. But in the end, you're getting to your destination. I know that was a lot, but I just think, I think from my generation of people that are in their 50s to 60s, like, we need to talk more to people that are, younger than us, to pass along certain things. And that's something that's been lost. It's like, that older generations aren't talking to the younger generations, and then vice versa, the younger generations aren't listening as well. And so you can always learn from someone else's challenges, but then you can also learn from how they did get over the hurdle and got over the second hurdle, and were able to get close to finishing their race.
Man, T-Brock, absolutely amazing,
Yeah,
man. I,
hey,
I couldn't say thank you enough. Yeah, you can go ahead and drop that mic. Hey, dude, it's been so much fun as somebody who
yeah,
got to play underneath you and has now learned so much from you just from being around you enough. Man, so glad you come on the show. This
yep,
was probably my favorite episode we've ever done. I feel like I learned more than any other hour of my entire life. So I
absolutely.
really, really appreciate it, man. So anyway, that's going to do it for us here on Bucs Bounty. Thank you for joining us. Listen to us anywhere you get your podcast, and we will see you next week.